Hey guys, my name's Thomas. I'm going to show you a couple tricks for 2D platforming games. I guess you could use this anywhere, but there's a little bit of information here. So I've made a fish jumping obstacle for a 2D game that animates, plays particle effect, all that good stuff. So first thing we want to do is new blueprint. It's going to be actor blueprint. I just call it fish jump. Your components, I just use a billboard as the root, set it to invisible because I don't really need it because you can't modify root stuff. So I got a paper sprite, which is my fish, no collision, and then a box trigger of overlap only pawn. That's just my, overlap. So I don't have to worry about the sprite overlapping anything. I just want the trigger box to overlap the player. So first thing you want to do, event begin play, get the actor's initial location. You're going to need this later for your timeline. And then we want to do a delay. This delay is basically when the event starts. So I've promoted this to a variable. You can pull this out, promote to variable. And then I called it event start delay. Set this to public. You come over here and click on the eye. Now the reason I want to do this is because over here in our details panel, you click on the blueprint. You can actually modify that value independently. So I can set these up to all start at a different time so that they're all not jumping identically. If I want it to be that way, it'd be fine, but let's say, I'm making an obstacle. I want this one to fire this time, and then the second one a different time, and third one, and so on. So that's basically how it's set up. This one fires at 1 second, this one 1.5, and this one 2. So that's a cool trick. If you don't know how to do that, that's important. You can use that on any variable. And then I just turn a switch on here. It says start event. So basically my event tick, as soon as start event is true, it starts doing things. Your timeline is first thing it goes. This is basically how I'm moving the sprite. So add a vector track. I like to hide the planes you're not using. And then you can shift and click on the screen to make a node, and then you would set the first one at 0 and 0, and then the second node, make another one. I have mine set to at 1 second it reaches a value of 750 on the Z, and then at 2 seconds it goes back to 0. Then you set your length to the length of the timeline, which is 2 seconds, and then click on the loop. You want it to constantly loop. So back to the event graph, I've got you want to drag from update, set actor location, and then get your initial location, do a vector plus vector, pull out your new updated location, and then plug that into new location. Now that's going to make him do whatever you told him to do in the timeline. And if you want your obstacle to move faster or slower, it's based on the time in here. So if I wanted it to go faster, I would probably cut this in half. Instead of doing it over 2 seconds, I'd do it over 1. So at 0.5 seconds, he'd be at the same point as he would here at 1. He would just be going a lot faster. Same way with longer, you would just make the timeline length longer. You could double it or whatever, and then it would move real slow. But that you can use that for other obstacles. So that's the movement of the sprite. The next thing I need to do is change the sprite. So once it gets to the top and it's coming back down, I need it to switch to it's falling. And that's just the way I wanted to do it. But the length of the timeline is 2 seconds, so I knew that halfway in it's going to be coming back down. So after 1 second, it checks this bool. If it's false, it sets the sprite to falling. Then it turns this switch on, so the next time it comes through, it's going to be true. It's going to set the sprite back to not falling. So this is basically just a loop. Real quick, like that is how I loop it up. Every second it's just going to go from one to the other because the switch is turning on and off. That's a real quick way of looping something like that. Alright, next is the particle system. This is a little bit more confusing and tricky, but basically as soon as the sprite hits the water, I wanted to, how could I do like a splash, kind of an effect, how is that possible? Well, the way I did it was through delays. So I promoted this to a variable, called it emitter delay, because we're going to change this later. Its initial delay was 0.2 seconds because the way the fish is positioned, like as soon as I come up on it, it jumps out of the water. So the delay from it hitting the water and coming out was only 0.2 seconds. It spawns the emitter, plays the sound, and I'm auto-saving. Then I set the emitter to a new time, which was basically, I had to time it out like what point it hit the water again. It was 1.7. Then I set a switch, basically just so that this emitter delay being set doesn't fire again. I only wanted it doing it that one time. And I didn't want, do once isn't going to work here because, well, maybe it would. I don't know. Maybe it would have. But anyways, so then the second time it's going to land, this delay is going to be set to 1.7. And then I have set the final delay that after 1.9 seconds, set it to 2. 2 is the length of the timeline. So I knew that every 2 seconds it was going to hit the water at that point. And the reason it's 1.9, I just combined the 0.2 plus the 1.7 to line it up. And then I said do once, set it to 2. So then the only other thing is your overlap. You just right click on the box, add on component begin overlap, and I always, just to be safe, I get in the habit of actor as tag player, and then if that's true, grab character, set his health to 0, and then in your player character, if you have an event set up when the health is 0, that will play. So the end result is this. As soon as the fish jumps out, you will see the particle system hit as soon as it comes out, and then it also spawns. It's all on a timer. There's no like actual collision. I just have it set on a timer. Now that timer is set to 2 seconds. So it appears as if they're hitting the water. And now you have an obstacle here that if you get hit, you die. So that's pretty much it. Hope you learned something. I mean, you can apply these concepts to anything. So all of this is important. If you don't know anything about the setting variables to public, the timelines, everything, all that's extremely important. So I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.